As a 90s baby, I was spoiled. Pokemon Gold, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy Advanced SP, naturally, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon. My entire childhood was encompassed with all this kind of stuff. Hobbies, collectibles. I grew up through that entire area, as did millions of other Americans. And frankly, when I got a little bit older, I started to neglect it. It wasn't really until recent years that I picked a lot of that stuff up due to pure nostalgia. Started off just exploring it on my own, picking up Pokemon again. Met a friend, Alex, who is part owner in Unison Raid. He's not here today, he's actually just flying back from China, but he and I started to figure out, like, how do we explore this collectible business together? How do we dive into that nostalgia a little bit, work and build a company together? It first started off as going to swap meets, selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay, and we had some minor successes, some great pickups, some crazy pickups, but one of the downsides is it wasn't really scalable. And frankly, in Vancouver, Canada, we don't have a lot of swap meets. Stuff that we were able to find, it just kind of ran out. And it wasn't really, for the amount of time that we put in, we weren't able to get a lot of value out of it. So second, we looked at 3D printing. Naturally, 2 3D printers here in the background. Alex has 3, I believe, at his place. And that scaled a little bit. We focused on a business on Etsy. The number one item that we had at the time was essentially 3D printed Apple Watch stands, where you put the puck in the middle, looks like a character, and we had a few different variants. That store's still running, and we've had some minor mediocre success. But naturally, it still has scalability issues where in order for us to scale or put a lot of time and effort into it, we'd have to buy more printers, we need more space, and frankly, we need more products. And right now, we're at an impasse where we had to figure out, okay, what the hell do we do? And that's where I picked up my Pokemon collection about 3-4 weeks ago. I had a PSA 10 Vaporeon V. Just started looking at values, and I realized, holy crap, the card that I bought, PSA 10, that was $110 way back, 2023, 2022. I sold it on eBay for just around 1,700 Canadian dollars. And for me, that was insane. I didn't really understand the value that Pokemon has increased over the last 5 years. I love the space. I like the people that I've always met in the space. Every time I go to a card shop, I enjoy what I'm seeing. I enjoy the people that I meet. But I never really spent too much time in the more modern Pokemon era. And I started to really pay attention to it over the last few weeks. Number one thing that stood out to me is that there's a lot of business opportunities in it. Not only in buying products, reselling products, but mostly just in building a community, building a channel like this one, where I have stuff that I want to talk about. I want to show what I do in the space and, fails and successes. But more importantly, build a community. And what really was apparent to me is a couple platforms are really popping off right now, one being Whatnot. I've been following Max Does Pokemon, who's built Grail Gallery, Pixel Game Squad for quite a while. A lot of the inspiration that we took from buying and reselling from swap meets was from there. And they started to resell on Whatnot. This last couple of weeks, I was like, you know what, screw it. Alex is away in China. I'm just going to give him my all, see what happens. And I want to talk about that here. So this video series, welcome to Unison Raid, by the way. This video series is starting a Pokemon business, TCG business, essentially from the ground up. Did start with a little bit of money. Naturally, that was made from that 3D printing business, but none of this was dipped into our own pockets. So I'll go over a little bit what I've learned over the last few weeks. So just to provide a little bit of context, there's 3 types of ways that you can build a Whatnot stream with TCG, at least as far as I understand. So one being box breaks. So essentially picking up a box, Scarlet Violet EX as an example. Each of those boxes has 30 cards, and you just auction off individual pack sales, 2 packs, 3 packs, whatever the variations are. Second would be single sales. So either selling the individual card, an individual pack, an individual box product, or really just anything that's on the screen. And then the third option is something called surprise set, where what that may look like is you have, say, 15 raffle bids. Each raffle bid is 2 packs of, say, Violet EX. And then there's a chance at winning a nicer card or a nicer sealed product, a nicer slab, something like that. Not to go as far as to say that that's gambling, but the idea being that it's more of a raffle into the idea of getting more value out of your product. I've streamed now 3 times, and first time I went around, I bought 2 boxes of Violet EX. I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna build out a surprise set because I saw that format working really well. It seems to have a lot of popularity with the chance of winning something like super awesome. So I picked up a few nice cards, I picked up a few slabs, and I picked up a couple boxes of Violet EX, and it failed. I had no attention of people coming in. This was my first stream, so I had no credibility, no reviews. I was just fighting the algorithm with whoever was really streaming at that time. So I stopped the stream after about 30-40 minutes. I just called it defeat, restarted the stream, and I started to sell individual packs of Violet EX, and that's where things really started to pop off. I sold individual packs, I had giveaways, and at one point in that stream, I think we got up to maybe like 10 or 12 people. It was, for me, that was a success. I learned a lot during that process. The second stream was last Sunday, and that was like, for me, that was what I would consider more of a success for like a starting channel. I just started selling singles. I went out and bought like a ton of nicer singles cards, mostly alt arts, full arts from recent sets, and was just auctioning them off. And then as people would bid $1 or $2, I was just waterfalling some of the extra V cards or holos or holo reverse that I had in my own personal collection. And what that started with is a card that was, say, perhaps $4, $5. As I added more cards, it was increasing the value for the buyer, and then naturally it increased the chance of me, raising the price. And so that stream was actually pretty successful. I came out of that with about $250 in sales. So I was pretty stoked by that. And we hit our Whatnot $150 credit, which link below in the description. If you guys sign up for Whatnot and start streaming, if you hit $150 within the first 7 days, you'll get compensated. They'll like match that compensation. So essentially they'll raise it to $300, which is pretty sick. And then the third stream, which I did yesterday night, total failure, actually. I was very surprised at how many people were coming into the stream. It felt like at one point we had 15 or 20 viewers. I don't know how, I don't know why, but the algorithm was just pushing people my way. But what I tried to do was I saw people that were a little bit more successful and Whatnot selling vintage cards. So base set, fossil, jungle, shadowless. So I picked up a collection this past week for $195 Canadian, and some older like EX and GX cards. Figured like, hey, maybe people are into vintage. I took a huge risk there, and I started the stream trying to sell individual singles. I was running auctions for starting at $1, even cards that were worth $4, $5, $8, $10. No one was bidding. One dude came in and just took a couple of the shadowless cards, which was an absolute steal. But all in all, like the stream was not a success. So a few things that I learned, and I want to go over that here real quick. So one, naturally, a lot of the more popular sets, so Mega Evolutions, Destined Rivals, or really any of the Japanese equivalent, those sets will have way more popularity. If we look at the viewer base as like a funnel, there are people that are interested in vintage cards, but if I'm streaming to an audience of like, say, 100, maybe 10% of them are interested in vintage cards. Whereas if that audience of 100 is looking at more of the recent sets, I'm increasing that funnel of opportunity. So I realized that in order for me to be successful in that space, or to garner a little bit more attention where I can actually start to go over base set and vintage stuff, I really need to increase that funnel. And what that looks like is having newer release sets, of box breaks as an example of Japanese card sets, English card sets, or individual card sales from those same sets in order to bring more people into the stream. Second, I realized that the initial cost of going into, say, like imagine I picked up, this is Scarlet EX, this cost me $80 locally, but if I pick up Inferno X, they're reselling right now for $160, $180, $200. I just don't have that cash. So in order for me to do a box break or single pack sale where everything starts at $1, I'm probably going to lose money. And while that is kind of the name of the game initially, just to garner some attention, I can only keep that going for so long. So I realized that something like Mega Evolutions, where the Japanese sets now are pretty favorable price-wise, anywhere between $100 and $120. Again, recent set, I'm increasing that funnel, but I'm not burning on like a more hype set like, say, Inferno X, and I'm not wasting my money on, say, an older set like Scarlet or Violet EX, where there's just not a whole lot of attention anymore. Second, the format matters. So whether it's a box break, individual sales, or surprise set, all three of those I've seen like crazy success in all of them, but the format of how quickly those bids are coming through, how quickly the items are coming through, and the chance of getting something that's an increase of value from the amount of money you're putting in, all matter. So imagine I'm selling individual card sales and I have an auction up and I'm waiting 10 seconds, 20 seconds for that sale to go through, and then I put up another card. I'm like guessing at what the audience is interested in. Whereas something like a surprise set or a box break, they know the value of what they're purchasing, and there's a potential opportunity, whether it's through giveaways with a box break or for surprise set, if you have chase cards within that surprise set format, there's a chance of that value. Say if someone bids $10 for a single pack opening or double pack opening, there's a chance that they get a raffle to a higher price item. So naturally, that's far more attractive. So I've learned that, one, no old sets, two, vintage, yes, but perhaps not right now, and really leveraging a lot of the newer cards to increase that funnel and opportunity for me and for this business. And Unison Rate, ultimately, I don't know where this is going, but the idea is we want to build a Pokemon and collectible business. We already have to an extent through Facebook and flipping, but it's finite in opportunity, and really the next opportunity is YouTube. It's building a community on, say, Whatnot or on YouTube to help grow with you and grow together and hopefully share our story and how we succeeded. Something as simple as like 3D printing business, we have a lot of information to share there on like how this was successful, why it was successful, what products did we use, what research did we have to do in order to find like a product segment as an example. So this is the first video, and I don't really expect much from this, but I want to keep you guys along for the journey, so hit subscribe. We're going to be trying to release videos on a weekly basis, and this is really just a talking heads video initially, but what I would like to start doing is, as I go out to buy cards, as I go to conventions, as I'm meeting people for exchanges or trades, I'll start filming a lot of that content, so I can share that experience with you guys. So yeah, hit subscribe. And hopefully I see you all around. I'll stream tomorrow on Whatnot, so Sunday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. PST, so Pacific Standard Time. Follow me. I have a ton of vintage stuff that I have to go through. I'm going to try and pick up between now and tomorrow a box of a more recent set like Mega Evolutions, but in Japanese. So Mega Symphonia, sorry. Yeah, hit subscribe, follow on Whatnot, link in the description, and we'll see you guys next time.